Hello everybody, welcome back. This is EonShiKeno. Today I'm going to bring you a Protoss strategy tutorial. It's going to focus on fast expanding with 3 gateways while applying pressure with DTs. Initially, I'm going to walk you through the build order, and then we're going to jump into specific things you need to focus on just to execute this build order as perfectly as possible. So let's just go through the build order right now. Alright, let's walk through the build order really quick. We're going to start off with a 9 pylon, 12 gateway, 14 assimilator, 15 pylon, 16 cybernetics core. On 17, make your second assimilator. 20, you start your warp gate research, and 20, your stalker. Now let's talk about Chrono Boost. The first 3 Chrono Boosts are all going to go on your Nexus to get your probes out quicker, and then your 4th Chrono Boost is going to be on your gateway to get your first stalker out. So let's talk about scouting. On 4-player maps, more than likely, you'll want to scout after your pylon. After your first pylon, send your probe out, do some scouting, find the base. Or if it's a 2-player map, like this is, you can scout after your gateway. You'll get there in plenty of time before the Marine shows up. But I would prefer just to scout after pylon anyway, just to keep things simple. So whenever you're scouting in your opponent's base, what you want to look for, of course, are they going gas? Now, if they're not going gas, more than likely they're going to be going for a fast expand build, and you'll want to make a stalker. But if they do go for a gas, you see 1 gas, I recommend to go for a sentry. That way, you'll have enough force fields built up to buy enough time to get DTs out. Whenever they go gas first, more than likely they could be going for a 2 barracks aggressive play. And in that situation, they can really easily kill you if you don't have a sentry out. So I recommend going for a sentry if you scout gas. So after you make your first stalker and you start chrono boosting it, then you'll want to make your next pylon on 23. And then after your first stalker gets out, depending on what you scout with, you'll either want to make a stalker or sentry like I just discussed. And as long as you have cleared out your base from any SCV scouts with your first stalker, then you can make your Twilight Council at about 26. And then from then on, you want to make 2 gateways at 28 supply, make your Dark Shrine at 29 supply. At 30, you make a pylon in your base, and then also at 30, you make a Proxy Pylon near your opponent's base. Now, you'll want to take your probe and move it out ahead of time to make sure it gets down there, so whenever the 30 supply rolls around, you're ready and you can build it right then and there just to make things happen a little faster. And then, of course, you'll make another Stalker at 30 also, and then you can warp in 2 more Zealots at 32 supply and make a Nexus at 36 supply. So that basically wraps up the build order. Oh, sorry, and you also want to do 2 DTs at 37 supply. So that's, and the DTs will be warped in at about 7 minutes and 10 seconds. That's about when, if you do the build pretty well all the way through, it'll happen. The DTs will be warped in at about 7 minutes and 10 seconds. So that's basically the gist of the build order. Now I'm going to go into specifics about how to execute these attacks and things to do with your DT once you have them out and you've got this far into the build order. So let's talk about what you want to do with your DTs if the turn has an expansion. So basically what you want to do is, with your first DT, you'll want to run past your opponent, try to make him chase your first DT into the main up here, and then come in with your second DT a little bit later, and then start harassing here once all these Marines have left to chase the first guy. So he should have enough scans to deal with them, but you want to split up your DTs so that each scan is used solely on only 1 DT. So you can just see here, actually runs in there, sends the first DT, just gets 1 kill, runs right past, and is going to start harassing this mineral line. They're forced to pull all the Marines to deal with this, and at the same time, as soon as you see all the Marines leave to go to the main, you come in here with the second one, you start killing SCVs. So at this point, they're going to be forced to use a scan, and optimally, they're going to try and use a scan whenever you're really close to the Marines. So just try and time it to run away really fast, because if you can make them waste a scan and they don't kill your DT, you're just going to continue to rack up some kills. So don't necessarily try to kill SCVs right away, because they'll really be wanting to scan to kill you. So just be on like the edges of it and just try to run away as soon as possible. So that's basically how you do this initial DT rush. You don't want to send both in at the same time. You want to kind of stagger them, send the first one into the main and the second one at the expansion. Because if you send the first one to the expansion, let them scan and kill it, they're just going to be right there waiting for you for the second one to run in. They'll be ready for it. So this way, it kind of separates them up, having to look at 2 different bases, and I think it's the best way to run in with DTs. Now, if they have a missile turret, already up and they're really well defended. They've got a really good setup against DTs. I wouldn't recommend running in here with the DTs. At this point, sure, they've got an expansion up, but you also have an expansion just about finished, and you'll have some Stalkers here ready too. So this is just a situation where it'll be easy enough to get into their base as long as they don't have a missile turret, and they have mostly Marines. So next, let's jump into defending a fast 2 barracks attack with this build. Now, once I said earlier, whenever you're scouting, you want to look for a gas. Now, whenever you see a gas, you want to make your second unit be a Sentry instead of a Stalker. Now, if you scout and you don't see a gas, make your second Stalker, because with 2 Stalkers, you'll be able to harass your opponent that has pure Marines at the beginning, and those 2 Stalkers will really slow him down in getting up any missile turrets or bunkers at his expansion. So, as we can see here, we scouted the gas, and then we're going to go into making a Sentry out of your gateway after you make your first Stalker, just for defense. And in this scenario, the Terran player is going to be going for a 2 racks build with a reactor and then a tech lab on a second barracks, and we'll just jump into that right now. So let's talk about how to defend this particular really aggressive attack. They're going to be hitting you with about 5 Marines and a Marauder with slow, and 2 Marines following that up, and of course more Marines and more Marauders following that up as well. So you basically have to just buy time until your DTs get out. So let's just watch how to deal with this particular rush. Oh, sorry, one quick thing. Also, after you scout their base and you see a gas, you'll always wanting to pay attention with your scout probe. Try and keep your scout probe at a Zelnaga tower or somewhere in between your base and their base so you can see whenever this rush is coming. And possibly put up a proxy pylon somewhere on the other side of your opponent, because right about now is about the time you want to throw up your proxy pylon, about 30 supply. So try to throw up that proxy pylon with your probe so that way you can warp in DTs at your opponent's base and at your base to defend with. So let's just see how this fight goes here. So as you can see here, we got the Sentry up there, and you want to throw down a force field right here at the ramp so that that way they cannot see up, and it'll be right there in the middle so they cannot run up. So this is basically just buying time. Now at about this moment, you're going to have all 3 of your warp gates finish. You're going to want to warp in an extra Stalker, so you have 2 Stalkers, Sentry, and then you want to warp in 2 more Zealots. The Zealots will just be your buffer to deal with this particular rush. So as you can see here, he's just falling back. He doesn't have enough energy for a second force field yet. Depending on the size of the map, you may have enough energy to throw down that force field. So as you can see here, he's warping in 2 Zealots. He's got 2 Stalkers, a Sentry, and this Dark Shrine is warping in. So he's just buying time for that Dark Shrine to warp in. So waits for those Zealots to finish, and then he's going to go on the attack. And this is basically just buying time for the DTs to show up. So just go in there, try and kill as many Marines as possible, and just fight it off. Throw another force field down there, get a couple more kills. Going ahead and warping in another DT. Still waiting for that Dark Shrine to finish. Now, of course, this isn't performed perfectly with micro and everything. This isn't perfect attack, but this is definitely a possible scenario. So that gets fought off. You could easily come near some more units, but at this point, DT Dark Shrine does finish, and you're going to want to warp in 2 DTs. Now, here's where the scenario happens where if you did have a proxy pylon, let's say way up here, you built at the 5 minute 50 second mark, about 30 supply, you can warp in 1 DT here or 1 DT here, depending on how much pressure you're getting. Now, if you think you're going to need 2 DTs at your main to defend against this, you'll warp in 2 here, just leave your proxy pylon up here for later for like the 3rd DT. You may need 2, depending on how many scans they have. So you'll definitely want to split up your DTs so the scans don't affect you. But in this situation, he doesn't have enough for some scans, so he's going to scan, actually going to lose some units here, but there he goes, finally throw down the scan, but there's too many DTs, they just kill him way too quick. And now in this situation, you fought off your opponent from doing this quick 2 barracks play. You can freely throw up an expansion, and you can start harassing them with DTs, probably confine them back to their base, because at this point, he's building an expansion up here. I'm building an expansion, and you can easily come up here with 1 DT, just harass this and stop this from being built, and then you'll be ahead with an expansion. They'll be trapped in their base, and you'll be in a positive position from that point on. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this build order. Just remember, whenever you scout, make sure you see gas or no gas, because that's going to determine whether or not your second unit is a Stalker or a Sentry. That's really important. Don't forget your proxy pylon. That's another important fact. And How you play this is really dependent on how skilled your opponent is. If they don't have any missile turrets, you can run on there, do a bunch of damage with some DTs. If they do have missile turrets, you might want to hold back a little bit. So that's pretty much the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, you can write in the YouTube comments or my channel comments, or you can just send me an email at eoncasting@gmail.com. Good luck and have fun.